We went how many episodes? 134 before we had to do a restart. And now we've had 2 in the last 3 weeks.
Unlockers.
Hey, it happens. I guess. That's just what we are now. We're just scuffed now. We're not special anymore. Not a well-produced podcast anymore. Welcome to episode 136 of Tactical Crouch. Kickedtripod here, Yiska and Volamel. Here hanging out. It's going to be a chill one today. Well, obviously, we don't have Overwatch League for a few more weeks, so we've got a lot of time to just kind of hang out and catch up, take your questions, and talk about some other... I would say that these topics aren't super heavy. I think we'll those big meaty topics that you kind of need you kind of need a couple weeks to think on them. We're not going to give you one of those today because there's a lot to think about. These are
pretty topical.
Season's not done yet.
Yeah, we might argue though. I'm smelling an argument or two. There might be a gauntlet thrown. Maybe the return of PvP for the off season, but we'll see. Maybe it starts today.
All right. All right. I'm down for that.
You know where to find me, Chengdu Bob.
Wow. What do we call you? What's his nickname? Now that he picked up the mantle of Chengdu, you gave him some bizarre
I can't remember
name. I don't remember it either, and it pains me.
I'm sure it was hilarious.
That's what it was. Yeah, Chengdu Christoph.
Was it?
I think that
Chengdu
was it.
Christoph, Chengdu Hans, something like that.
Hans, yeah. There you go. That's a good one. He says he's slapping kids. Your inner child lies with Chengdu Christoph.
Yeah. So. Thanks everyone for being here. Welcome to episode 136. Before we get started, if you like the show, patreon.com/tactical crouch. We're going to be doing a game night. You guys want to do a game night on Friday? After strike drop?
Yeah, I kind of got to look at my calendar, but I'm pretty sure
you don't want to play on this right now? You sure you just don't want to take some time? Fill the episode here a little bit.
No, I think I should be able.
90% chance, 2 o'clock Pacific time, twitch.tv/Kickedtripod, right here.
The difference for our Friday will be that there will be no Overwatch League and that someone is going to stream our Among Us games. That's really what's going to change, isn't it?
Pretty much. I mean, we need to do a spike drop. I think there's been enough happening. Sure. So we do have to kind of talk about that and the goings-ons and whatnot, but yeah, I'd be down. I could get some Among Us in, some Jackbox. Can order some drinks. Nope. Definitely can be had.
Awesome. Yeah, drops are enabled here on our Twitch channel.
Yeah, get those drops.
Get those drops. So yeah, we have game night Friday. Thanks to our patrons. And you can also sub right here at twitch.tv/Kickedtripod as well. If you want to hear Yiska type on his keyboard.
It's not a keyboard that just
clicked.
Should I show you guys what clicked?
Yeah, what are you clicking?
I'm an old people.
Oh god,
I'm an old person.
He's got his little pill caddy.
Geriatric pill.
What do they call those? What's the German word
calendar
for what that is?
I wouldn't even know. Pillendose, Pillenkalender. No idea. Yeah, something like this. We probably would just make a word up out of 2 nouns. Just make a neat compound word, and that's fine.
I think they're called a pill caddy or something here. I think that's
really?
It's a very as seen on TV name. Your pill buddy or something like that. Your Medi buddy.
Yeah, I had the issue that I had for a long time, just made it a routine to take them. And then it became a routine to not remember if I took them or not. So I got one of those in order to make it consistent.
Did you get a pill for that?
No, actually, I think Americans take on average way more drugs than we would.
Probably.
Like I still distinctly remember someone on Overwatch Twitter who I remember but will not point out, just calling himself heroic for going through a flu without drugs. I'm just like, it's everyone here, dude. Like, who takes paracetamol or whatever for a fever? Yeah. What's going on over there?
Who even knows what paracetamol is? Ugh.
Yeah,
med students, am I right, guys? Hey, oy vey.
I'm more of the. I enjoy the suffering that comes with the flu.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I also tend to think that I like when you get out of the worst, it actually gives me a nice little happiness boost, and also for some reason, my aim's better.
When you're sick or after you're sick?
After I'm sick. Like, dude, directly after.
I feel during like the peak sickness, like I feel like throughout, like even in school, like I tested better. I remember like in band, like playing my instrument better. Like I felt like I performed better while I was sick, which is very counterintuitive. Yeah. Maybe that's just like noticing like when I'm doing well or like where I'm at actually. Yeah. But I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe it's a complete like just psychological bias, but
could very well be the case. Yeah,
I have so many follow-ups, but I'm not going to ask them because we need to do a show. Big thanks to our patron producers: Refine Bean, Fredino Pin, Battle Crab, Kuchikopi, Lolshin, Rex Zane, Audio Compass, Kasha67, Shara, Nathan Your Misery, Hunter Tane, Fabled Steven, Roger B, Owen, Chris R34444, Horbjorn. I listened to the podcast while on the toilet and in the shower, thinking of Yiska and Peace Camper. Thanks so much for supporting the show and getting us off of that previous topic. I appreciate it. People are going to be needing medication after this, listening to this podcast, I think.
Maybe. Blood pressure medicine, because we're going to make them molt.
Did you hear that I got a shout out on Tactical Crouch for one of my tweets?
You got a shout out on your own show?
On Flash Chat.
Did you? I'm just getting through it. What was the tweet?
It's about it was my one about control.
I remember seeing it, but I don't remember it.
It was, I can find it really quick just so I nail it.
Oh, it was because I remember Uber had like retweeted it and was laughing about it. It was like controls the map that doesn't mean anything for your team only if they win or something like that. Something to the degree of like that winning, kind of feeling.
So it's winning on control is irrelevant unless the team you want to win wins on control, in which case it is a very important first map win.
Yep. Very well done. Yes.
That's it. Yeah.
Good tweet.
It's one of the few. I get like I'll get like a random, like there was one time when NYXL tweeted me like 3 times in an afternoon.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh. Just every once in a while when I watch games live. I go off, I guess.
That's a lot of them.
I guess I go off. I guess that's where I get my engagement. Speaking of engagement, this one's been getting kind of spicy. It turns out, Joe, that Pine may be wanting to come on back to the OWL.
Yeah. Yiska, thoughts?
I mean, it's unfortunate that he wants to come back when the devs have already decided that due to Overwatch 2 heroes, Overwatch is going to turn turn-based next year. So, like that's why the Widowmaker will probably not work that well. But
I had heard it was a real-time strategy, but turn-based, it could definitely still fit.
Yeah, Civilization Overwatch. That's pretty much what's going on.
There we go, boys.
Yeah, I think it's actually unfortunate that this was the season that he skipped, because he kind of held out for 2 seasons, playing like in the first season only really coming in as a joker, and then in the second season not playing at all. I think he played legitimately 0 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And then now that like you could actually run like specific hit scan heroes. I think there were metas where you could have filled Pine with his skill set throughout more maps. Even though, yeah, I struggle with recollection because of the hero pulls, not gonna lie. I think there's a good chance that he would have also been a pretty good Ash.
Hey, McCree,
McCree would have,
money on him being a good Ash. I think maybe towards the end of the season, I think Dynamite placement I'd be interested to see how he would have progressed throughout the season. But yeah, I think this would have been a great season to see Pine in. I guess my worry, my concern is, where do you put him?
On the bench.
Because there are very few teams where I'm like, and okay, so to preface this, it's been a minute. I remember Pine from season 1. I remember Big Boss Pine. 100%, right? That's season 1. Season 2, obviously, we didn't see a ton of hit scan. Towards the end, we got a little bit with stage 4. Season 3, obviously, we have quite a lot of hit scan. There's a lot of talented players in this league now that were not in the league in season 1. There's a lot more. There's a more wide variety of talent in the league now that was not here in season 1. Does Pine look as good as he did in season 1 against the talent that we have in this league and the talent that's coming in this league in season 4? I'd say no. I think he's good. I think he's above average, most certainly. But is he this like dominant all-star ONS level type of player? I don't think so. Where do you put him? You can start from the bottom. We can look at Boston.
Yeah.
Do you want him over Jerry?
I'm not sure what's consistently. Like, we just don't know what this level is. That's the problem,
sure,
right?
Exactly. But
he's exciting. Right?
Like, he is 100%. Fantastic signing, very popular, very exciting, is going to drive, that business side well, right? But in terms of just on server performance, and again, I've been a big somebody who's been pushing back against the Jerry narrative just because it's just like beaten into you that like, hey, this guy is good. Hey, this guy is like winning the game solely for Boston. He is a good player. Do you put Pine on Boston Uprising right now? Don't know.
So
I think there are some arguments to field that I wouldn't.
Would you put him on Defiant?
The thing is, we don't even know what these rosters will look like next season, right? Like
100%. But for right now, for this season,
you don't have to qualify.
In hindsight, would you put him on the Defiant?
No. Logic's
Where
a
do you
better
put
player.
him?
No.
I think so too. Genuinely. I think he's been more consistent over his career. Pine is a good player. I think my opinion on him would be swayed immensely if he was to have played more at the top. Again, this is a player who was supposed to be on the best team going like pre-Apex almost. Like LW Red was supposed to be the best team. They never qualified. That took them forever to qualify. Then he was like this flex player for LW Blue, I think more in season 3. Never really got to see him play his role that much. He was playing Genji sometimes and Ana other times. Like, it was a mess. Like, he wasn't like given a strict identity. Then we got to see him in Overwatch League season 1 on the New York Excelsior. Looked fantastic. So we have one data metric to kind of measure him properly on what I view as proper like measurement, which was good. Is it better than these other people? Is it better than somebody like a Jerry who's younger, may cost less? Again, like, I don't know if that's an argument that you want to field, but I think there are some serious questions on what do you do with him? Do you put him on the Washington Justice right now? Removing hindsight, removing how good Stitch looked in the playoffs. Do you put him on the Justice? Maybe.
Yeah. I feel like Pine could work in a very similar position as okay, this is going to sound mean. I don't mean it to be mean, but for the same reasons as you would recruit Chipsa.
Yeah, I mean, he's like a hyper specialist player that has been asked to flex in the past and has done okay, has been serviceable. But key is like your dedicated hit scan. But I think the community at large has been like, I won't say sold a false bill of goods, but is like getting way too excited at the prospect of Pine coming back in and like somehow unseating some of like these big name players. Like there's no chance that Pine's going to the Shanghai Dragons, guys. That's not happening. Not when you have Fleta, DM, Lip. That's not happening. Shock? Don't think so. Don't think there's I won't claim to know Krusty's grand plan, but I don't see there's room.
You got the Krusty factor though. Like Krusty makes room if you fit.
Sure.
If you're a cog in the wheel, if you're a cog that fits 100%. In his wheel. Do you think though? Because there's one issue that I have. Not that I disagree with you, but one issue that I have, and that is the assumption that Pine has largely plateaued as a player since leaving Overwatch League. Hasn't improved. We're talking speculation here, which I know neither of you like to do without 4.5 minutes of qualifications, and so I get it, I understand it. But do you think that there's a world in which Pine comes back a better player than he left the Overwatch League on?
Certainly could. I also feel like an almost equal certainty that because he hasn't been playing at the top, it's hard for me to argue either way. Like maybe he's just the same. Maybe he's worse. When you're not in that environment, do you have that kind of equivalent practice? I don't know. I genuinely can't. It's hard to speak on that, but
yeah, it's like it's a weird position, right? Like I think a pro player that is a veteran and finds in himself that he still loves it probably gets into the Overwatch League with a different attitude or insight or goal. But yeah, I like either it's a PR pickup or he has to go back to contenders. That's pretty much the bottom line. It has to prove himself first. And let's be honest, the people that came back, like a Numlocked, like a Fearless, those guys had to prove themselves first, though.
True.
And there, for every Numlocked and Fearless, there is a what's his name?
Describe.
Kalios, for instance. Even though I'm not sure if
all of the lucky future team this last or past South Korean contenders season. Yeah. Just now, an absolute retirement home.
Let's also like I don't have that. My gut feeling is there's not as much talent coming up. My second thought is, how would I know? I haven't kept up with contenders whatsoever. Yeah. The thing is, I also haven't heard that much from contenders in terms of like what's coming up.
That's surprising. I felt like you were going to be very much on the side of we will see another big injection, even though that you don't have tangible like people to point to or cases to kind of like highlight. Just the idea of Overwatch and its constantly changing metaverse, if you want to call it that, to kind of play within your kind of frameworks, gives us more impactful rookies season by season, year by year. Feels like because they're brought into that system and they're born almost within that system, then they'll probably end up rotating the veteran talent out. Is that not kind of resonate with you? Is that not something that's agreeable?
Because like the trend sort of is that this is happening, right? Like very clearly this was the season of that. Yep. It's also the trend that we have less and less OD teams, we have less and less contenders teams, or like trials teams, people trying to get to the top of contenders. And that must in some way impact the amount of and the quality of the rookies that come after eventually. I'm not sure if it's this season. Like again, I didn't have time to at all look at contenders this season, I'll be honest, so I don't know. But yeah, like for Pine to come back, I strongly believe that there needs to be a proof of concept that he can be one of those success stories. Yep. Also because the way that he went was like, in a sense, also like Numlock didn't get to play. He didn't get to play in season 2. He like, I remember in season 1 he had starting positions from map 1 onwards, and like throughout it, maybe he played through like 2 or 3 matches in its entirety is what I remember. Maybe it's more, maybe it's less, maybe it's never, I don't know. But he was never a starting player really for that team. So in order to prove that you have value as a starter for anything and not just like a substitute player, which I'm not sure he would be happy with, because I'm pretty sure like the way he phrased his comeback desire was to see the stage again. Yeah, he wants to play. Right? It's not that he enjoys the team environment and he wants to be in a group and just like go to war with my tribe type of thing. He wants to be on stage and wants to be cheered for. And that only happens when you actually play. So where?
Exactly. That's my 2 big criticisms. And I have a cynical but exciting prospect for all of the Pine stands out there. You still might see him, but to kind of recap the argument, right? Where do you put him? Is he better than some of the rookies coming in next year, right? The third cynical point, is there dumb money willing to pay him because of his name? I think there still is. I think there's somebody that's like, oh, Big Boss Pine's on the market. Pog, chat. We love that, chat. We want to get Pine on the team, chat. Pog. And then they sign Pine. And then he's like, okay. I think that's a very reasonable world.
The problem is that if we're being honest, the Overwatch League could definitely gain from having characters like
100%.
Pine.
I agree. Right. But is
like
that like a long-term franchise move, though?
No. Like what I'm saying is, like, we should all be wishing that either Pine or players like Pine enter the Overwatch League. It would, like, it can't all be super and McGravy, right? Like, and
by this you mean personality, not necessarily like the skill level and stuff like that. You're just talking about having more personalities and players who are marketable in the game.
Yeah. And I'm being unfair because there were a couple more, but not that much more. So yeah. I mean, it would be sweet because, like, in many ways, it felt like he was also a real character. Like he shared a lot of darkness of his experiences with audiences, and also therefore didn't have to hold back in his like just pop-off moments. Also emotionally, just like showing the full range, right?
Yeah,
and it felt authentic. So yeah, good luck to him. But I think that's an extra round in contenders coming up, and he in all likelihood.
And he did like put in the actual tweet that he's LFT owl / contender, so he's not like he's not deluded in the sense that he doesn't think there's a chance that he goes to contenders for a while and proves that he's still got it like Logix did.
And I think it's probably best for him in multiple ways, right? Like, again, people love these comeback stories, and to see a player to the caliber and to like the size of narrative that Pine has go through and start at ground zero again and then make it in 2022 or maybe 2021. I don't know exactly how that's going to work, but that's where it's like, okay, he still got it. We need to get him in. He comes in, he breathes his life into a team, a la Fissure for the Gladiators in season 1, right? Like, think about that. Like, that's the real stuff that we need. We don't need like another veteran player that was good at one point coming in and just looking mediocre on a mediocre team and then they bow out again. Like, it's flat, it's boring, I'd love for him to start at contenders again, work his way up, prove that, do the numlock, do the fearless, cut his teeth again, and then really, really shoot up the ranks once more. I think that would be.
And I think we're all aligned here, and I think Chad is kind of missing the point maybe a little bit on like this isn't trying to force Pine back into the league or justify like
no. Anything is the opposite.
If anything, it's saying like it sucks that we have to look to players like Pine to be, positive marketing for the league, positive fan engagement for the league. And as for me, I would much prefer these charismatic young rookies that we haven't really seen a ton of. I would I would love for this next rookie class to be filled with a lot more people who are playing at the highest level and can back it up with a personality that is marketable and makes people more invested into the game, because like it or not, Overwatch is not a game, like it doesn't hold its own on gameplay only for a lot of people. And we know that. And honestly, I can't say a lot of esports do. It's very few. Like it's definitely a spectrum. I don't think it's like, oh, this is a gameplay esport and this is a personality.
Certain
esport.
Ones are a little
but
bit
there are definitely
more leaning,
and they're
Look,
go ahead.
The cynical framing of all of this is esports is a gigantic lie and it's all about the drama, as is every sport.
Yeah.
Like, how many fans do you think sit there with their blog in the stands, just taking notes on the strategy of their football team?
Probably not a ton.
What do you think the average percent of a regular season baseball game is that fans actually look at the action?
See, it's tough for me.
Okay, baseball is probably a bad example because it's so bursty, but let's say soccer. It's not high. It really isn't that high.
Sure. And again, I think that's an agreeable stance, but I think there is a more, dare I say the word, indoctrinated view with traditional sports because it's been around for so long. So you do get some people that are into the stats, looking at who's genuinely good, looking at underrated players, much in the same way that you might talk about an Overwatch League player or, another esports player that oh, well, this guy's hero pool isn't here, there. You get that. I feel like you get that more with traditional sports. Again, I'm not a big fan of traditional sports. I don't particularly watch it, but watching, NBA Twitter pop off last night felt more like leaning hardcore than not, right?
But do you think the people that were complaining actually understood what went wrong?
No, not at all.
Right.
But more so than I think where we're at in Overwatch. I don't know if that's even a coherent point or not, but
yeah, I think in general, esports fans are probably more engaged with their sport simply because they're also players.
Maybe at the top.
But it's also probably less intuitive.
Oh, for sure. Oh, certainly.
Yeah, it's a hard equation. I'm not sure if that also is leads anywhere. The point is, it's you can't have a sport without the drama surrounding it.
100%. It's the sugar that makes the medicine go down, right? That's how you get in the stadium. That's how you get in is these storylines, these big name players, all the marketing that goes around them, and then you fall in love with it, and then you become a career fan. Then you look at the strategy, then you look at the stats, then you find your home within the wide variety of different aspects of the competition itself, right? So I don't disagree, but I don't think it's all a lie. I think it's a little white lie to get you in, right? Hey, look at these archetypal stories to kind of get you to pay attention, to get you to watch, to get you to care at first, and then you build the bridge across the river. Then you find your own way to care once you're in.
Yeah. So basically what I'm saying, I think the vast majority of sports appeal happens on the emotional level, not on the thinking level. And if it's on the thinking level, it's probably not on the very concentrated type of solving math equations type of concentration.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. And because it's a pastime for the vast majority of people as well. It should be entertaining, right?
Yep.
So, yeah, and I would even say the vast majority of time when I engage with esports, it is for the story more so. That's what that's the louder voice in me than the art appreciating, or the, I don't know, like the math professor just like trying to do the calculations, right?
Sure.
So,
but like think about, to kind of wrap this up in a neat, pretty little bow. Like think about going back in time to season 1 and telling 2018 Yiska that Pine's going to be a free agent in 2 years, and there's an argument to make that nobody wants him.
see, that
Seems crazy.
I would have. No, I don't think so. I think it's crazy from 2016, maybe, or 17. It's not crazy from 17. Sorry, I don't think it's crazy from 2018, simply because how little he has played, and how
that would be like the
Sebiolbi and Libero even took over some of the video roles in season 1.
Fair enough. Maybe again, I think the response to that is going to be, and I stand with you on that kind of assumption, even though I'd be a little bit surprised, but that this is going to be viewed as a hot take. So I'm interested to see some of the heat we catch over this, because I think people are rose tinted with looking at Pine. I think we've got a lot of scary rookies out there.
Okay, this is like Eric says Yiska is a fan of talent turnover. I'm not sure if that's true. I actually want some object permanence in our esport. Like, I think, for instance, even if it wasn't Vancouver Titans, it is very, very bad if your team switches the entire roster and becomes irrecognizable other than the wrapping from one to the next day, right? Like, I also don't think, like, unless the esports org has been in the game for a very, very long time and has a recognizable owner with recognizable values, I do not care about your rapper. Like, I don't care what kind of jersey you're wearing necessarily. And some orgs have transcended that, like a G2, for instance. I care about G2 because, like, there's a competitor behind that kind of rose endemically with the esport. They are engaging culturally with the esport. They have a coherent brand across many different titles, where even the brand owner is very much engaged in every esport to a degree, like to varying degrees. That's when I start caring about this. I don't care for, I don't know, honestly, Astralis. I don't care for their rebranding of Origin. That's a professionalized rapper of just like,
see, that's interesting.
That's math professors going to town on a brand. I'm not gripped.
Let me stop you there. Is it, so are we looking at like when it's rebranded, or after like the dynasty that their CS:GO team put up? When are you answering, or when are you answering that question?
Right, I see it. Right, I see how the identification with the team. I care about that. I don't think their values and or character transports at all to their League of Legends team that they now have renamed.
Sure.
Right. Like, there's nobody in the org that's recognizable for me until maybe someone, like, the entire core roster retires and then becomes managers and outward facing personalities.
Right.
Like, Astralis is a faceless rapper for the best CS:GO team that the game has ever seen. That doesn't have any transitive property for me in my mind or emotional landscape for the League of Legends team or whatever other franchise they're going to get. And they have to work very hard for that to achieve that. And I think they do not understand that esports is not sterile.
Say that again.
Esports brand building cannot be sterile. Sterile?
Sterile.
Okay, I was like, I didn't catch that.
No, you're good. In German, so
yes, sterile.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, sterile. Sorry.
I was kind of on the same thing. I was like, what?
I was like, wait, what? Now, to be fair, I want to kind of get in front of any kind of polarization of that. You would agree that it's more of a balance, right? It's kind of that spectrum discussion where we can't have total object permanence, right? Where it's just like, oh, this is, the CLG and they've got all the good players that we know and love, and they don't really perform much, and they're like 3 years past their prime. Like, you don't want that, but you need some sort of balance between like bringing in new talent and having the old guards to kind of market and be something to recognize. Is that fair to say?
Sorry, can you rephrase that?
So trying to jump in front of anybody who takes like the argument of like object permanence too far.
Yeah.
Saying that like, oh, you only want veterans in the league? Well, that's boring.
No. Yeah.
It has to be a spectrum, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's all.
That, and I mean, there are recognizable values where Revolving Door still tells a coherent story in some sense.
I feel like that's a lot harder, especially in Overwatch.
Like I could not tell you the amount of people that need to happen. For instance, let's say Fallen in CSGO had created the Luminosity roster. So like came up with a core, won a couple of majors, then kept switching around all the players, and only Fallen remained the one permanent object in that, one constant in that team. Then I could attach to that. And even if Fallen left and became a general manager, or the values within that team were very clearly also being carried by the rest of the team after his retirement, for instance, then I could still probably care about the same entity. Other than that, it is very much about player personalities and or people that transitioned there. And, or, I mean, for instance, like, I think someone like Hex from NRG also does an excellent job as one of the industry veterans in getting me to care about what he has to say and what kind of teams he builds.
Yeah. I think that'll only continue. I think that is tough to kind of ask for right now, and I'm not saying that you are, but I think it's difficult to take, for instance, like an Overwatch League team and like ask them to like have an identifiable like theme or through line throughout multiple seasons when the game is, our game especially, is just so ever changing and flippant. And I wonder if even, you know, more established esports, looking at like League of Legends, even have like or for the majority. I know that there are some teams that do, but there is a lack of direction. There is a lack of vision for a lot of these teams, and we'll get that in the future. But for right now, I agree with you. It is more player driven. It isn't something from the top down, at least not yet.
I also think that some of it has to do that our salaries from the, I mean, we're not a tier 1 in esport, but from those bigger esports are probably just below the threshold where it feels safer to become a streamer. For the vast, I'm not sure if that's rational, right? I'm just saying, like, people see that as an option, and of course not a streamer in Overwatch, because that doesn't work either. But like, there are precedents where people walked from the Overwatch or from the professional dream and have made a career out of it, right? Like, with the big two basically being XQC and Siegel.
Those also tend to be the players with the biggest personalities that you want in your league that we were just talking about.
Yeah. But what would possibly hold them when our top salary is like, I don't know what it is, but it's probably not more than 400K, while league salaries are $1 million, and like, you probably like,
and the game asks you for a bit of your soul, literally.
Yeah.
Pay your soul, all of your time, for like something you could not easily, I won't say easily, that's not fair at all. But that you could try to make streaming. Like, it seems like a no-brainer. It's not something easily you can fix either. I don't think this is something that the Overwatch League and Blizzard in general can just like flip on its head, but that's a reality we're going to have to face at some point. And maybe another good reason why there's turnover.
But I think, to your point, there are some people looking to come back. I mean, yes, there are some people where we did have a pretty big emotional as well as just physical exodus from the game from a lot of people, players, coaches, analysts, podcasters, and we've seen more than just a few look at making that return, realizing grass isn't quite as green on the other side as I thought. And you know, and
there's really nothing like it. There really isn't anything like it. That's the one thing you cannot take away from Blizzard. As much as we can cry and the meta, Moira, Brigitte, this, that, there's nothing quite like Overwatch. It's positioned really well. I think at the end of the day, a lot of our gripes and concerns at the heart of every balanced discussion is we wish it was just a little more, right? We know we have something here. We know that there's a unique property to this game that is enticing, whether it's the lovable characters or it's the gameplay or it's the polish that Blizzard puts on all their games. We know that there is something here, and it feels like we're squandering it. It feels like we're just going the wrong way. I can't escape returning to that a lot of the time when I hear people like, dead game. It's just like, no, I don't think it can be a dead game. It's difficult to recreate this well. I don't think Overwatch will ever die, weirdly enough. As strange as that is to hear me say. I don't think anybody could do it better.
It's just, I mean, man, like I wish I could say, I honestly think a big part of it just stems from the player base. That not enough people play the game, and not enough people understand enough about the game to like really understand and appreciate the esport of Overwatch. And it's also really hard to just understand what a good Reinhardt player does.
100%.
Even in Plat and Diamond, versus what they do in an Overwatch League match, because it's also stark different.
It's these minor little things and more meta discussion, and not in terms of like compositions, but like all of these little nuances that are going to be completely lost on the player. So to get to that other side of the river, we have to look at the league. We have to look at these teams and say, how are we going to build that bridge? Because we're just not. That's, again, I'm banging this drum for a few years now. Why aren't we putting cameras in front of these players? Why don't we have a true sight? Why don't we have a world song? Where is this injection of content to get us across that bridge so people can care?
Yo, like people don't understand how good true sight is. Real talk. Like I got a bunch of people at work that are only into gaming, have never seen Dota, can watch that and just totally go like, wow, esports is nuts.
I don't watch Dota. I watched that last True Sight. I was like, okay, when's the next Dota tournament? Like I'm all in. Like I can see the stories, I can see the drama. Like get me in. This sounds cool as hell. Where is that for us? Where's our tangible content? It can't be put on these teams. The teams already are like, guys, we can't even sell out like arenas now because of COVID. Like we can't, like we're scrambling to figure out what the game's gonna be. And I get like Blizzard has their own set of problems to worry about, but somebody has to bite the bullet there. Somebody has to front the bill to build that bridge to get to the fans that care, or not to the fans that care, but to allow them to start caring, if that makes sense, right? We have to amplify that drama.
And I feel like some slack has been picked up by teams. I feel like social media strategies and like content creation has picked up a little bit this season, especially for teams who didn't do anything before. Like I'm thinking the Uprising has pretty solid output now. I'm struggling to find like another name, but there's definitely like, for instance, Valiant still consistently producing.
Sure.
I also know that other teams had a lot of really cool stuff planned. Like for instance, another example would be, people probably don't remember, but Toronto had pretty cool like preseason
interview.
With the Shore
that was
thing.
Fantastic.
Right? Yeah.
I'd love to see more of that. And obviously COVID kind of puts a hamper on that. Kind of returning to the Pine discussion, I think if you stick a camera in front of Onza's face, again, from my understanding, he was a pretty successful streamer in Korea. There's no shortage of talent. I think you put a camera in front of his face. If COVID never happens, we actually get to see him on stage. I think he eclipses Pine. No doubt in my mind. He's the big boss, right? He's the inheritor of that title. I think we just need to give him access. Give people access to these players that aren't just streams, but like well-produced, thought out, not story-driven at all times, but just, I don't know. I hate to say like, that's even worse. Not asking more from the players, but asking more from like the project managing content director type of person. Like, I get like we want to see Kareev and Agilities cook, but how is that compelling to the fans? How is that building that bridge? In my mind, it doesn't. It's fine. It's there. It's the bare minimum. It's gonna get also, engagements. It's the gimme.
It's also not easy. Like, it feels so easy to look back at a piece of
100%.
content and be like, that was a great piece of content. Do that. But it's honestly, it's not that easy.
I agree. I have to forfeit that.
Far more complicated. The reason why you see those cooking streams is because they can be executed in an afternoon and edited in 2 days and up within a week.
And I think there is room for that. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying don't do that. I think we also have to do those long form, like really not serious all the time, at least, but really engaging pieces of content that shows the reality of Overwatch League, who the player is. Like, give me something real. I just want to feel, guys. I don't know.
Yeah, and like I don't know if it's actually putting players in front of cameras. Like, I don't know that I actually need to see Ons speak necessarily to feel like I know Ons and am excited for him and want to like dude, like there's just a lot. There's a lot that you can do to create the story and remove the veil behind. How do you draw out of the avatar of a tracer or whatever the player behind the character, not even the person, but just the player in general? How do you talk about their natural tendencies? How do you talk about those things that all of a sudden give you a meaningful reason to, be invested into that player or that team or that position? And I think, I think we naturally gravitate toward more person-centered, personality-centered content. And I think that that's definitely part of it. But I think that you end up creating not you always, but you often end up creating content that's forced and content that ultimately isn't the player's personality anyway. It's what the organization wants you to think the player's personality is anyway. That's why players like XQC and Siegel, like you can't put a Dallas Fuel rapper on those guys to be anything other than who they actually are.
I still have friends asking me like, oh, is XQC playing? How's XQC's teams doing? Like, I get these questions posed to me every so often from friends who have played Overwatch or at least like are in the Twitch culture and watch Twitch streams, and it's still like XQC's team. It's still Taimu's team, right?
And
FX team.
And you have to create a broad offering of content. You can't just because it's not the same for everybody. Some people actually do just want gameplay content and highlights.
Sure, 100%. Yep.
Sorry,
should I prove to you that Overwatch League in terms of like content creation, just like some teams just blow?
Sure.
How is Bad Pachimari not signed by a team right now? Yeah. How is that possible?
I don't know.
Like, unless they definitely say like,
true. I agree.
Like, I don't want to. Okay, fair. I don't know. Like, there's still a pinned tweet on their profile saying, due to personal circumstances, I'm no longer at uni. I'm now able to devote time to edit videos, memes for content creators, streamers, players. I'm looking for opportunities to help keep me doing stuff whilst I try and figure out what's next in my life. You know what's next in your life? You should be leading a social media brand. Like, you made it. You basically got every single person that cares about Overwatch League following you on Twitter already.
Yeah. You want to know what would be intelligent? If Overwatch League really wants to get in touch with the fans, they bring on, SI Not Found. He's doing his thing.
Yeah.
Why not bring on Bad Pachimari?
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
I don't think there is anybody that does it better. And if the league doesn't do it, then one of these teams needs to. It's a crying shame that somebody who hits as consistently as they do, isn't getting paid for it. So yeah. There's your shout out.
I would be honest, very surprised if they can afford it.
Like, you think they're asking for a fucking stack?
Do you know how much? I don't. This is a made up number, but based on what I know, how much do you think social media managers in Overwatch League make?
Not a ton. This would be my guess.
Generally hourly, from the ones I know of, about $20 to $30 an hour.
What does that equate to, like, yearly?
Like $60K at the high end.
Okay. That's kind of where I was guessing, and I don't know. Like, yeah, that's another like chip at the budget, but
don't get me wrong, there are people who are higher up that are probably closer to like the 85, 95K or whatever.
More
but somebody like Bad Pachimari, just by honestly contracting himself out, is going to bring in much more than that.
Sure.
Much more than that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Maybe. I mean, yeah, you got to look at the market, you know, who wants him or them.
I'm also not saying that they are the most efficient at capitalizing on that. Not saying that they are making a lot more than that. I'm just saying, like,
sure.
If you just look at the pure market demand for somebody like that, they would be far better off as a contractor as far as how much money they would bring in than
for them specifically
than that.
Yeah. I mean, also just like having a lower volume, but because like as a creative, and I also feel like, okay, here's a saying, right? If you have a creative person, if you have a productive person, test him for creativity. If you have a creative person, test them for productivity. Right?
Yeah.
Like it's creating at scale is very different. It will necessarily dilute the quality of your output. So what can you do? You just make yourself more scarce and just do less, have more free time, and still do the same money. Like that seems to be like the sweet deal. But yeah, like it's crazy that that person's not picked up. Like,
yeah, that's the heart of the discussion is like, look at how, and again, I would say this is probably subjective, but maybe there is some objectivity that you could look at with how much their tweets are engaged with and how popular they are and their followers over, you know, year by year measurements. Like I'm sure there is some objectivity, but subjectively looking at that account, it's too good not to follow, right? It hits constantly. It like bangers. Like, who thinks of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Seto Kaiba, you build your own deck and I still beat you with it? Like, who just has that in their back pocket? And again, that's just like the one of many different kind of tweets that this person puts out.
Yeah.
It's a crying shame that they're not on a team, period. I don't know. The league should do it. One of these teams should do it. Multiple teams. If you want to contract yourself out, Bad Pachimari, go for that. I'm sure multiple teams should be looking at you. I don't know why they aren't, but regardless.
There are metric ton of Overwatch memers. And a bunch have already been picked up in some fashion. Bad Pachimari almost has a magnitude more followers and engagement than those people. Like, it's a no-brainer. It honestly is.
Yeah, it really. There was a few people that. Yeah, I think Overwatch has a good like social media and content like. Not powerhouse, but like kind of spawning ground. Like for whatever reason, we just do a good job at like just popping out like some of the funniest people, some of the wittiest people. And yeah, I don't know if we can probably wrap this up with, you know, somebody hire Bad Pachimari for sure. Like,
yeah,
and needs a job.
And other memers, like content creators in the space for whatever. Like the thing is, the endemic talent, if they got to your attention, they probably understand something about this space that whoever professional, like, let's be honest, like social changes so quickly the way we use social media. And either you have a very adaptive, intelligent person that keeps up to date, or they have a working formula for that particular moment in time, and you gotta have them while they're hot, right?
Right. Yeah.
So just by like proof of concept for these people, like if you hear about them and they have a significant following in an esport that is already not that big, they are probably very, very much adapted to this space, and you want them for your brands.
So I do have a question, Joe. I have a question for you. What do you think? What value let's say Bad Pachimari goes to a team.
Okay.
They take over social media.
Mm-hmm.
What monetary value does that increase? And let's just assume that they have a lot of increase of impressions and engagement. What does that end up bringing at the end of the day to the team, the org?
So to kind of think through it out loud, I forfeit the idea that it's going to bring them any kind of like tangible revenue, right? Like if I bring on Bad Pachimari, I'm sure I will not just be mailed, revenue checks. But I do think they are a tool to kind of direct the vision of this hypothetical franchise. So if I'm or you or Yiska are leading the direction of a team and want a certain messaging or a certain tone to be put out there, I think they're the best fit for that. And I think that that creates as kind of aerated and boring as it sounds, a intangible value for like the brand as a whole.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's too buzzwordy, but
no, people want to associate. They want to associate with brands that have certain attributes. And someone that, as far as I can tell, has never been a brand risk and constantly puts out funny bangers. Like humor is an amazing identity feature that I want to associate with, right? Like I want to be the person that, or part of a fan of a team that where the other fans look to our social media and just goes, oh, I wish we had that, right? Like that, and like I'm sure there's some way to also build that into like getting the player personalities more known. Because let's be honest, like these formats that we're trying are not innovative at all. Like whatever is on these social media, like that's the.
I think
that's
most of the content is really not even touching any kind of innovation. Every team has their like, boring little like behind the TSM kind of mini docs that are just half highlights and half just flat interviews with people who really don't even want to be there.
Yeah,
it's not innovative, and I'm not asking for innovation. I don't know exactly what I'm asking for, if I'm to be completely honest.
So a social media manager, and this is like I've now got the better part of a decade experience now in making marketing and social media and stuff tangible numbers, because like it or not, the people signing the checks for most of these things and approving the expenses aren't okay with people will love your brand more, or it's intangible. Like that just generally doesn't exist. NRG is one that does. Like Andy Miller does understand that really well and is willing to sign a check for somebody that's gonna help them grow that. But you also have people too. It's like football, or owning a professional sports team in general. You don't necessarily do it for money. You do it because you're a rich person and you just want to flex a little bit, and there's a lot of fun perks for it. And if you break even, you're ideal, right? So you're like in a great situation. So a lot of these people are, they trust the people below them to make decisions so that they don't lose money. But where it does end up having tangible brand value is if your tweets have higher engagements and higher impressions, it means that more people are following, more people have notifications on, which means that you start sprinkling in your sponsored tweets, right? So sponsored tweets immediately have monetary value that you can draw back immediately. Like, this is how many, and you can literally assign a $sign to it. That ends up being one of the biggest numbers that people will use in justifying a social media team. And the problem is that most of the Overwatch League teams' channels are doing so poorly in engagement specifically. And we even see teams try to cheat this so hard. Like, you ever see one of those like for A, retweet for B, reply for C polls when Twitter has a polling feature.
Yeah.
It's literally just farming engagement.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's all that those types of tweets are doing. You see it all the time. You see just these random questions put out from an Overwatch League team, and you think that they're attempting to be personable. Nope, they're just trying to get more engagement in the form of replies.
Yeah.
And to be fair, that's all social media is boosting numbers and trying to get the best numbers. Like if you could take the whole interface off of it and throw it in a spreadsheet at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
But that's where I think you'd be disappointed with how much actual value somebody like BP would bring to an organization. And that's why I don't think that. And
is it a long-term investment then? So if we agree, and I think most of the panel here would probably agree that most content channels, most social media channels for most of these teams are pretty right. So where do we start?
I don't think so.
Depends.
I don't think that the
average is pretty bad, I'd say.
For the size or the engagement or the content.
That's where I have to put up my hands and plead ignorance. Like I genuinely don't know. It just feels bad. Doesn't feel like anybody's getting off the ground floor. No, it doesn't feel like anybody's making, and maybe that's where my mind is hung up on content, but I look at the size of maybe Atlanta Reign's Twitter account and their social media presence across like all their boards, and I'm just like, could be better.
It is.
I'm sure it's not bad, but it's pretty.
But one thing
poor
that
when you look at like esports as a whole, it's just like, granted, it's Overwatch or whatever.
The one thing I will say is as far as the polish of the content that actually gets put out on the socials is actually quite good. Just across the board, whether you're in esports or in gaming or just in like technology in general, the content itself is actually not really like, I don't look at that and go, the content is bad. Like quality, that kind of stuff. It's generally the content of the content. It's the investment of the content. And honestly, a lot of that isn't on the teams either. Like a lot of that isn't on the physical people that are there. Some of that goes straight back to Blizzard.
Yeah, I agree to a point, but I'm not sure.
I feel like
also don't have
a lot of it is though that the younger demographic is just not that interested in like highly produced products. Like if a dude with like a Logitech headset actually like pays very much attention to having a scuffed as hell microphone,
sure,
and pulls in twice as much viewership on the reg that Overwatch League does, they're like sitting in their parents' bedroom, literally. Like I'm personally fed up with brands, with like brands. Like I can't watch a commercial anymore. I'm so over it. I can't deal with your professionalism. It's so fake. I don't believe any of what you're telling me. I want like authentic stuff by authentic people. One man army Fall Guys dude sits in his bedroom and just like creates a 1 million Twitter account just being genuine. While people look at their Excel spreadsheets and try to figure out which kind of meme structure hasn't surpassed the 1 week threshold where it's too old to post.
Yeah. And that's and I get that vibe. And again, I'm no social media guru. Couldn't tell you, engagements from impressions, right? But I look at Bad Pachimari and I go, yeah, they might not bring like value right now, but if we're gonna get anywhere anytime soon, I think it's a worthwhile investment looking at like
I do
multiple
too.
years.
If I were like, if an expansion team came, like let's say next year we're getting 4 more teams, and one of them came to me and be like, "You're gonna lead the marketing for the team. What are you gonna do? We're gonna build a crack team. We're not gonna have a huge budget. We're gonna spend 80% of our budget on salaries."
Can I also say something? Like, this might be ignorant. You might catch me being very bad at my job. or very much outside the circle. But are there press conferences in Overwatch League currently being held online in Zoom calls?
I couldn't tell you.
Because there's right
Couldn't
now
care less, to be
a
fair.
CDL one going on.
I think
And they have been the entire season.
I'm gonna be real with you for a second. I think Overwatch press conferences are bullshit. I think they're horrible.
Well,
yes, they had a good. Okay, I'll give Blizzard credit here. I'll give the league some credit here. I think their press conference or their press junket kind of mixer, it felt almost NBA like at the 2019 Grand Finals, was very good. Like you genuinely got some content from that. The problem with a lot of these press conferences is everybody just videotapes them and puts them online. So like anything you could ask, anything that's usable there,
questions.
It's the most. I'm not gonna get into it, but they're not worth going to. If I can like cozy up with somebody and get like a one-on-one, I'd much prefer that, and that's much more tangible and much more beneficial for the company I'm writing for myself, for the what I think is the league at large. Much better. The press conferences are just, it's a pony show. It's for the players to come out, say some things, and leave.
Had to finish.
They're weak. They're weak. I don't know. I think they could be better.
Yeah, I mean, I
don't know. I'd have to think way more on it to improve them, but
yeah, I mean, the thing with like press conferences is that there's this mutual contract between the journalists and whoever is putting on the press conference that your job as a journalist is to bring out news, and then your job as providing the press conference is that the news that they give isn't going to tank the product that they're trying to make. And there's that mutual agreement there. And there's a lot of stuff then outside of those softballs, like, so tell me about your choice of trying to play McCree.
Not even, John, not even.
But just
not even close.
Come on, dude. They're just off the cuff. You know, whatever.
Like, I know.
How
but
do you
like,
feel after today's win today?
Yes, like that kind of just boring. Like, how did you win?
So, anyways,
It wasn't towards you. It was just like it's not even that level.
You wish it was.
The point is that number one, the people who are in those rooms either don't have the familiarity or the understanding or the level of comfortability to go to the question and be like, Dream used this in chat. So I'm going to use it there. So, sure. Hey, Dream, why'd you play Blase and McCree? Dummy added by me. Just kidding.
Right.
Joke, Dream. Don't. Anyways, and like you get that kind of like boom, immediate. There's an immediate impact on what that says about Dream as a coach, and you have created that kind of storyline. And the people who are comfortable asking those questions are people who are familiar with the game and understand what the point of the press conference is for. I think the press conferences are set up fine.
I mean, it's a method that works. Like, I wonder if it's the people that they're inviting. You get a lot of these, publications coming in because it's a big name event. They're going to ask, a lot of these just like very dull, flat questions that takes up a lot of the time. It's, I don't know how to fix it. That's the problem. It is a very systematic problem because it's like, and this isn't tooting my own horn by any means. It's hard. It's a hard game to get. Right. And I'm not saying I get it. Right. It's also, you need these people to come in to talk about the lifestyle, to talk about, stuff that people said on Twitter and, you need some of these like boring questions, but it's like, there's not enough time to very incorporate easy. Everything.
The people that get credited are the yes men that will never ask an interesting question. Very easy. That's how it is. It's the same people that get to vote on the MVP. Like, we're like the most bland, unseasoned food in that regard.
Sure. Yeah,
who's making that decision though? Who's making the decision that only people who ask bland questions get into these? Because there's a finger
I'm
finger
about
point
to
there.
open a can of.
There's a finger point there that
there is.
I think needs to be addressed.
I'm so close, Joe. Like
I wouldn't say that there's any one person, but you obviously have to look at the league. You have to look at Blizzard and say like, why do we need The Verge? Do we need, I'm trying to think of just like traditional publications. Like, do we need Vice? Is that what we need right now?
Sometimes,
yeah, I agree. Sometimes you do. And there's a time and a space for that. But for the press conferences to actually matter and be worth going to. And I'm not the only one that holds this opinion. Sometimes it's just part of your job and you got to go. But if it's not, there's quite a few people who don't, and I can't blame them.
I mean, the best press conference stuff that we got early on in the season. Remember Sideshow's little personal press conferences that happened outside the press conference where there were just his little interviews, which again,
so much better.
If you want to talk about a real problem with Overwatch League is that the two biggest personalities in the league are not actually players and not actually part of teams. They're casting the games now.
Which isn't a bad thing, but it's like
I think it is a bad
little
thing.
Weird.
I think it is a bad thing.
Okay.
I think
why?
I think you need those bigger personalities decentralized. I don't think you want, not that you won't take Sideshow and Bren, but like Overwatch League is in real trouble if we lose Sideshow and Bren.
I agree. And okay, I think we're semantically just saying different things.
Yeah, I would say that we're in more trouble than if we lose Uber.
Yep.
I hate to say it.
I would agree.
I think Uber's the best caster in the world.
I think Uber's easily the best voice in the game. Yeah, I agree. But like in terms of like the breadth of the content, like what they do, Sideshow and Bren leaving Overwatch would be not a good thing. Not a good thing at all.
Nope.
It'd be terrible if we lost all three to begin with.
Say what you want. Like losing Monty was a big hit.
Yep.
Huge hit on that end.
Yep.
We could lose Bren's player of the week quite safely though. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Anyways, I don't even know what we're talking about anymore.
Yeah, what was the last like tangible like? I think this is all
press
just like stemmed from Pine.
Yeah,
yeah. Okay,
so
sure.
I can't wait for Pine to be back in Overwatch League.
Yeah,
to fix press conferences for all. That's
yep.
That's where we're coming
I think that they had a good to kind of wrap that up. I do think that the 2019 finals had like a good idea, something that was more individual, something that the journalists could build off of and really have their pointed question or have their lifestyle question. Everybody had their own personal time with the players that they wanted. Some players just weren't even asked questions. Some players had lines out the door. I think you can figure out who that might be, right? But that in general feels like a good strategy moving forward. Just like the boring old, walk a player out on stage and have the media point questions at them. Like it's not a coherent experience at all, and it just becomes.
It's not. But if I'm the one, so if I'm a representative for my team, and my team or my coach goes up there, my players go up there, and the press starts asking questions, and their questions suck, I'm following up with that journalist to be like, why didn't you ask like real questions? Because as the PR representative for a team or for the league, if you need to ask how are you feeling after today's match, and that's your warm up to kind of get that, you can kind of understand how they're going to talk to you. Sure, fine. But at some point you've got to get something out of there that's newsworthy.
It has to be. Yeah.
It's easier said than done, but that's also like just like a part of the job. Like you're not a very good journalist if you can't ask good questions. Like that's, I don't know, just kind of, it feels like a non-starter.
Yep.
For me.
The feeling to your point though, the feeling discussion comes up a lot. It feels like every year we have like a big, like not town hall, but like there's a big discussion around like asking a player after a match, whether win or lose, on how they feel is either good or bad.
Depending on if they win or lost.
Sure. I think there's value in both, but that seems to be the go-to for some people. And I think there are people who do that way better than others. And there are some people who just do the bare minimum in that sense and just ask like, hey, how you feel? Oh, that's great. Okay, that's it. Like, that's the meat and potatoes of it right there. Then they go on to ask about the Olympics. And it's just like, what? Did we not just play a game? Like, I feel for the players. I feel for the coaches. It just feels like a slap in the face to be like, yeah, so the Olympics are going to do esports. Are you excited? Yeah, sure. That's it. I don't know.
There's just it just feels like honestly Overwatch 2 just needs to hopefully be a big reset for a lot of these things, because I don't even know how you fix a lot of these, because let's also say that Overwatch as a game and Overwatch League as a league just hasn't scaled like it should. The number of people who should be following it, the number of people who should be consuming every video, even great videos and articles aren't getting the type of views that they need. I mean, we've known this about just Overwatch content in general. It's a reason why. Do you want to know the real reason why so many of us are making podcasts? You want to know the real reason? Because it's the fastest, like it's the
Don't tell them how the sausage is made.
The least time in, time out piece of content that there is. The Plat Chat guys sit down, couple hours of planning, couple hours of shooting, and then I don't know if they even do any post editing, and then they're done. Whereas a 15-minute analytical video is going to take twice that time.
Do you know how impressive it is to get the numbers that Plat Chat get in Overwatch? That's like, it's comparable to League of Legends, the biggest League of Legends podcasts. How is that possible? Because these guys are legitimately industry leading in what they're doing. And wherever they, dude, like, I'd be loving to be Sideshow Brett and like the crew right now.
They
like,
have all the chips.
Like, they better be great. Like, they're studying.
And credit to them,
Dude, the league office is just sitting there going, oh, god damn it. Sideshow is looking at another Valorant VOD. Oh my god, what's going on? Like,
why does this motherfucker keep tweeting?
Oh my god, we gotta add a 0 to his contract offer. Jesus Christ. Like, yeah, no, it's nuts. It's actually legitimately insane, yeah. And
you know, you have to, I can't help but support that. That's not only a smart move, but it's good for everybody. I'm happy that they're doing it. I think we need a healthy dose of, not a healthy dose of cynicism, but I think the league needs to get off its high horse in terms of like trying to make this just like this pristine. Nothing happens in the Overwatch League. Everything is peachy keen here. There's no drama. Everybody's friends with each other. I think people need a healthy dose of genuine drama. Genuine grit. I'm not saying we need to, go full gamer mode on them, right? Miss me with that. But we need some real tangible experience that goes to the content, that goes to, what is written, how it's edited across the board. I think Overwatch in general could look a little less polished, and I think it would do better for it.
Make it look like Joe's Widowmaker play.
Don't want to see that.
A little less polished.
I tell you what.
Joe's Widowmaker play is the XQC production quality of Overwatch League.
I am not an op in Valorant, nor am I a Widow Ashe player. Catch me on the Winston though. I tell you what, I could maybe play a Winston. No. Don't ask me.
I could go on all day about social media strategy and like how like the Fall Guys social media strategy is not that impressive. Not for what they've done with it, but man, there's not that impressive is the wrong term. It's not that. Yeah, that came across like I'm not acknowledging what they did, and that's not what I was intending at all. It is far more effective to grow young brands and channels virally than it is through planned, polished social media, that type of stuff, which is a big thing to say. I will say this right now. Among Us, Fall Guys, like, if the game sucked and people weren't playing it and they tweeted the exact same stuff, their social wouldn't be at a quarter of what it is. And they would need to rely on more polished, I'll follow these guys. Yeah, this is an okay game for right now, like blah, blah, blah. And that value to engage with the brand completely changes between a game that is viral and all your favorite streamers are playing it versus a game that is an okay game. Like it's you're working with two different products. Like the closest thing is probably calling it reactionary social media. Like whenever I'm working with companies, I go, you need to allocate 30% of your social media time to reactionary social media. And that's a low number compared to like where I would choose to offer at, or like where I would choose to sit at. Part of it depends on what your product is and whatever, but it's like even said, I'll say it, like I actually got a little bit tired of Fall Guys Twitter because it was the same thing every year. Oh, another yellow team tweet. Is that what we're doing today? It's hard. That's a really difficult thing to do, is how do you know how much you can milk these topics? How much do you know that you can bring up again before it stops being funny and you start being the, the Sprint trying to seal the Verizon guy, the can you hear me now guy, right? Where you're just kind of like, bro, that was 15 years ago. We're on to a different thing. Like you're just milking it. Stop it. And that's not saying that the people who milk it or go too far or use something too many times are bad at their job. It's just what is it when something's really kind of unstable and kind of unpredictable? We'll just call it unpredictability of social media.
Soul Dynasty.
Soul Dynasty. Anyways, long thing to say. Volatility. That's it. Thanks for hanging out with us today, chat. Thanks for enjoying or hanging out on our rant. I don't know if you enjoyed it or not, but entertaining the conversation today. Patron producers, Yiska, why don't you go this time?
Yes.
And not the subs, the actual patron producers. You old man.
It's you old man. Right. Thank you to Refined Breen, Frodinho, Pin, Battlecrab, Kuchikopi, Lolshin, Rex Zane, Audio Compass, Kasha67, Chara, Nathan, Your Misery, Hunter Tane, Fabled Steven, Roger B, Owen, Chris R34444, Horbjörn. I listen to this podcast whilst on the toilet and in the shower, thinking of Yiska, and Peace Camper.
Wouldn't it be thinking of yourself if you're saying it? Or thinking,
That kind of presupposes that I think of myself as only one person and not whatever takes over.
The many-faced god that is Yiska.
Definitely not. The many-faced troll, baby. Rich troll.
For this morning.
What about new subs? What do we got, Joe?
New subs. Chris R34444 gifted a sub earlier in the show, so thank you so much. Dat Game Guy 0703 resubbed, Pin to Paper, and Ashador resubbed as well, or was a new sub. But either way, we love you all the same. So thank you so much.
Yes, we do. Yiska, what do you got going on this week? And shout outs. Actually, before we do that, game night on Friday at 2:00 Pacific time. Join discord.me/Yiska out if you want to participate. Otherwise, tune in at twitch.tv/Kickedtripod if you don't want to participate, but you do want to watch. Hopefully, I have my new graphics card. We'll see.
Oh, yeah.
They come out.
Sure.
I think I'm going with the 3080. I can't justify a 3090.
Right.
We got a last one. We got a last minute sub. Salty Coin and Chunky Milk.
Nice.
Thank you.
Salty
for
Coins.
your Twitch Prime. Oh, Salty Coins. That's true. Salty Coins and Chunky Milk. Fantastic name, by the way. Love it. Well done. A+.
Yeah. So yeah, other than that, patreon.com/tacticalcrouch and Yiska, shoutouts to the week. Where can people find you? All that good stuff.
So Valorant is more in the menu now, simply because like it's a break. I will try to catch as many Overwatch League people as I can for interviews though, because for a lot of them postseason has started, and I want to continue sort of like down the line that the Christopher interview went to. I enjoy talking to coaches more, but I think I'm serving the public equally well if I try to find more players, and therefore, like, maybe reach out to Twitter if you have a like specific requests, and I'll try to think of it like specifically in mind with maybe a little bit more contemplative side, and which kind of player personality would lend itself to that. Possibly Moth or whatever. That type of person probably fits that interview series the best.
Certainly.
Cool. Joe, what about you? Shout outs for the week. Where can people find you?
Well, shout out to Mick Sneakerton, who jumped in at the super last minute with that Twitch Prime. You're not late. You're right on time, right where you needed to be. So shout outs to you. Yeah, today writing a little. Weirdly enough, it kind of aligns with Halloween and the kind of spooky vibes that might give off. I think the Overwatch League might be cursed, guys. I think it's cursed, and you're gonna have to read a whole article about how and why it's cursed. So that's getting written today. Looking at Philly this weekend, and then we'll see what happens. Coming next week. So now that's on the content menu for today.
Sweet. As for me, kind of working pretty cool. I had a couple companies reach out to me about some products that they're making for streamers and content creators, and they want me to review them. So those are going to be coming in the coming weeks, and I'm going to be able to kind of create some videos on those again. That's kind of my goal during the off season when I don't have to spend my weekends watching Overwatch League. Join my Discord, discord.me/Kickedtripod. If you want to do that, we got a brand new stream redesign and everything, and then new graphics card hopefully tomorrow. Then we're like set. We're ready for Shadowlands. We're ready for TFT Fates, and
the
new monitor. By the way, I'm crazy about this monitor. This monitor is insane. I don't know why I didn't go curved earlier.
Yeah,
I'm one of those people, I guess, that like curved. I don't know what it is. But that's gonna do it for us. Chat, thanks for hanging out. Have a great one. We'll see you on Friday for Spike Drop and Game Night. Bye.